Welcome to this explainer. Let's just jump right into it. Today, we're diving into one of the most epic, absolutely foundational tales in human history. We're talking about the myth of Prometheus. We're going to explore exactly how his sacred rebellion against the gods literally shaped the very concept of human progress and consciousness. I mean, at its core, this is a story about the ultimate price of enlightenment.
And we kick things off with this massive, thunderous refusal from Zeus, the king of the gods. Listen to this. Do not grant the small ones the power of the giants, for knowledge will only lead them to rebellion. So Zeus wasn't just, casually withholding a tool here. He was intentionally keeping humanity in the dark to prevent them from ever challenging his absolute authority. It perfectly sets the stage for a titan who dared to look at that monopolized power and just say, no.
Section 1. The gap between worlds. Gods versus humanity.
Okay, to really get why this rebellion had to happen, we need to look at the sheer, horrific inequality at the dawn of time. On one hand, you've got the gods. They're up there dwelling on the glittering, perfect peaks of Olympus. And to them, humans were, they were basically just mortal playthings. Creatures whose entire purpose was to serve, offer up sacrifices, and basically just tremble in fear. But down on Earth, the reality for humanity was incredibly grim. We're talking about shivering in the shadows of valleys, eating raw meat in freezing, damp caves, and just being completely vulnerable to wild beasts and the brutal, killing cruelty of winter. It was a desperate existence. Every single day was just a grinding struggle to survive until tomorrow.
Enter our protagonist, the Titan, Prometheus. Now, his very name actually translates to forethought, and that is a crucial distinction, because while Zeus looked down from Olympus and saw nothing but pathetic, fragile creatures stuck in the mud, Prometheus had this unique ability to look ahead. He could see what could be. He saw a real divine spark within humanity. He recognized our untapped potential to grow, to learn, and eventually master our environment. He saw beings that were absolutely worth protecting and elevating, even if it meant crossing the supreme ruler of the cosmos.
Section 2. The Great Theft. Defying the Heavens.
Unable to just sit back and watch the innocent suffer any longer, Prometheus decided to act. And this wasn't some impulsive, spur-of-the-moment thing. It was a highly calculated, legendary heist. Literally, the greatest heist in mythology. First, he crept right into the heavily guarded heart of Olympus, moving totally silent right under the noses of the gods. Second, he approached the blazing chariot of the sun and very carefully stole a single, flickering spark of divine fire. Third, to smuggle this ultimate contraband out of the celestial realm, he hid the living flame inside a simple, hollow stalk of fennel. And finally, he descended back to Earth. And on that night, for the very first time in human history, the darkness was pushed back.
So why does this matter so much? Well, because fire wasn't just physical heat. It was a total game changer. Fire brought the forge, right? Allowing humans to actually melt metal, bend it to their will, and craft real tools. It brought the hearth, finally conquering that killing winter cold so communities could actually gather safely. But the absolute crucial point here is the mind. Fire equipped humanity with reason itself. It allowed us to step out of the food chain, to think, to create, and to start building actual civilizations. Prometheus didn't just hand over a campfire. He literally handed humanity the foundation of human progress.
Section 3. The eternal agony. The price of compassion.
But of course, there were consequences. By stealing fire, Prometheus had given humans will. He essentially made them masters of their own fate. And this provoked boundless, absolute, terrifying fury from Zeus. For this ultimate crime of compassion, Zeus devised a punishment of just unimaginable horror. Prometheus was dragged to the desolate, freezing peaks of the Caucasus Mountains. There, he was bound in heavy, unbreakable iron chains, pinned agonizingly against the jagged rocks at the very edge of the world.
And this wasn't just a physical binding. It was an infinite, looping nightmare. Listen to the cycle. Every single dawn, a monstrous giant eagle sent by Zeus would arrive to tear at his liver. Throughout the entire day, Prometheus suffered endless, visceral agony, totally exposed on those rocks. But here's the truly vicious part of the punishment. Because Prometheus was an immortal titan, he couldn't die. So every night in the freezing dark, his liver would completely regrow, only for the next dawn to arrive and the brutal cycle to begin all over again. He endured this infinite torture for ages. Yet the most incredible part of this myth is his absolute resolve. He refused to ever beg for mercy or apologize. He willingly chose his own endless agony over seeing humanity shoved back into the dark.
Thankfully, we're not leaving him on that rock forever. This story does have a resolution. The torment wasn't eternal. Eventually, the mighty hero Heracles, who you probably know as Hercules, climbed those forbidding mountains, killed the eagle with a single arrow, and shattered those unbreakable chains, finally liberating our Titan of fire.
Section 4. Meaning of the myth. Why this story still deeply resonates with us today.
You might be familiar with Sisyphus, the guy forever pushing a giant boulder up a hill. Now, Sisyphus represents a struggle that is absurd and circular. It's just punishment for the sake of punishment. But when we compare him to Prometheus, we see something completely different. Prometheus shows us that suffering can actually have a profound, noble purpose. He represents the ultimate visionary, the person who pays a devastating personal price just to secure the enlightenment of others. It's knowledge framed as a conscious, heroic sacrifice. And then there's the central element itself, fire. In this context, fire is the ultimate metaphor for technology and consciousness. To steal fire is to actively challenge the status quo. It's about looking at the boundaries of what's considered possible or what is permitted by authority and just pushing right past them. Think about it. Every major leap forward in human history, every scientific breakthrough, every civil rights movement, it's all a new spark of that exact same Promethean fire. In fact, the legacy of this indomitable spirit is so strong that it literally birthed a word we still use today, Promethean. It perfectly describes any act of bold, creative rebellion against authority. Prometheus is basically the patron saint of rebels, inventors, and thinkers. This myth proves that while a physical body can be chained to a rock, a mind that has seen the light of reason, well, that can never truly be conquered.
So, to wrap this up, Sisyphus showed us the bare struggle of existence, but Prometheus, he shows us the very real cost of progress. To burn bright and to bring light to the dark corners of the world, one must sometimes be willing to endure the fire. I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to consider today. In your own life, in the pursuit of progress, truth, and knowledge, are you willing to steal the flame? Thanks so much for joining me in this explainer, and hey, keep that fire burning.